So I wasn't actually going to build a concrete fireplace, or at least that wasn't the initial design. I'd actually purchased a bunch of large white porcelain tile that was supposed to go over top of cement board. But once I got the cement board up, my wife took one look and said, "I really like that. Is there any way you can build, a giant concrete fireplace without actually having to build a giant, thick concrete fireplace?" So I looked her right in the eye and I said, "I have no idea." Before we get started here, I'll just mention that if you're interested to know how I actually frame this fireplace, I've already made a video about it and I'll put a link to that video in the description below. Alright, since I'm using hardy board for this job, you want to make sure you use the right screws for the application. Size-wise, most cement board comes in 3 feet by 5 feet. And I'm starting at the bottom here, so I want to make sure that my first board is completely level, because if it's not going to line up along the sides or the top. I'm using a sawzall to cut around the fireplace opening, but I'm using a carbide tip blade to cut through the cement board. You could also use a blade meant for cutting wood. You'll just wear through the teeth pretty quick. Alright, once I make these 2 cuts, I'll score a line with a sharp knife and then snap off the piece. As you start your next section, make sure to stagger your joint lines. You never want all your joints to line up. You're just asking for a nice big crack. So here again, I'm cutting with my sawzall, scoring with my knife and snapping off the piece. Once I have the fireplace all boarded up with screws every 12 inches or so, it's time to put on the corners and tape all the joints. Now you can't just use regular drywall mud in this situation. You have to use a material like Durabond, which is specifically engineered for use on substrates such as cement board. When you mix it up, you want it to be a little like pancake batter so that it's easy to apply. I find you want to get it on as quickly as possible because it does begin to dry pretty quick, usually within about 15 minutes. Once you have the Durabond spread out on both sides about 1/8 of an inch thick, you can install the drywall corner. Always have your corners cut to length beforehand though. So now I'm going to slide it in place, pressing firmly to make sure it adheres to the Durabond underneath. Then I'm going to use my 6-inch drywall knife and coat the exterior of the corner bead, careful to keep everything consistent and smooth. Once I have my corners on, I use mesh tape and the Durabond to fill in all the remaining joints. After about 1.5 hours, I can begin spreading the cement on. There are a few different products you could use here, but after a lot of research as well as a bunch of trial and error, I found Planty Patch to work the best. It comes in a 22-pound bag and you mix it with water until you get the consistency of peanut butter. I found that I could only mix up a small amount at a time because otherwise it dried faster than I could spread it. After my initial coat, I took a sanding sponge and sanded off the high points, as well as all the imperfections, while still maintaining the general rough aesthetic of cement. Before adding a second layer of the Planty Patch, I finished off my recessed nook for my TV mount. Here's a better shot of what the Planty Patch spreads like. Again, it's pretty easy to work with, you just have to watch that you don't mix up too much at once because of how fast it dries. After I give the second layer of final sand, I take a wet cloth and wipe off the leftover residue. Although the planting patch is dried a touch at this point, it hasn't hardened fully yet, so you can actually manipulate the cement with a damp cloth if you need to. For example, if the scratch here was too deep for my sanding sponge and I wanted to remove it, I can take my damp cloth and basically scrub away the scratch. To finish things off, I paint up the recessed nook black, hang my TV, install a speaker bar underneath, running the wires behind the cement board here. Then I install the fireplace insert. All I have left to do now is clip the glass in place, screw it down, and we're all done.
Well, I think my dad did an awesome job on building this fireplace. If you did, maybe consider subscribing and leaving a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching, and I hope... Can I go? Can I go?
Yep.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!